Okay, so here is the second version of the same line chart. Let's check it out and see if it's any better. Okay, so here is the new reworded introduction and overview. The graph illustrates the number of visitors in thousands who are visiting the Tabard Tower theme park throughout the whole year, which is counted per months. Overall, the park has an interesting variation, which consists of an increasing trend until the end of the third quarter, followed by a gradual decline in the last quarter. However, although the first and last quarter have steady up and down marks, the middle two quarters are interesting because they have erratic fluctuations. Before I go into too much detail, this overview is quite long. I mean, the overview should be, what do you notice first when you look at the chart? Okay, so let's see. It starts at, let's say, 35. It ends at 80. So, overall, there's been an increase. Has the increase been smooth? No, it hasn't, because we have these declines, these steep rises, decline, rise, decline. But overall, there has been an increase. So, instead of writing all of this, why don't we say, overall, despite some fluctuations, the trend throughout the whole period is up. I think that would adequately capture the overall trend. But anyway, if we go into detail, see if I can make this a little bit smaller. And we look at some grammar. Let's move this down. Okay, so illustrates the number of visitors who are visiting. I'm not sure why the writer is using the present continuous tense. So I would suggest that we change this just to who visit. Let's make that black. The Tabard Tower theme park throughout the whole year. Again, here we have the, but I don't know which year this refers to. So why don't we change that to throughout the whole year, which is counted per month. Now, per is followed by the unit. The unit should be singular. So per month, per day, per hour, per person, per whatever it is. This noun should be singular. But the whole year is not counted per month, or per month I should say. That's not what the writer is trying to say. I think what the writer is trying to say is which is divided into months. But we don't need to say this because we know that years are divided into months. So why don't we end there? This is really not necessary. Okay, the overview. Overall, the park has an interesting variation, which consists of an increasing trend until the end of the third quarter. Why does the increasing trend end at the end of the third quarter? Because if I look at this, then you could argue it ends here because it goes down after that. You could argue it ends here and then it goes down. So why choose this? Because it's the highest point? Maybe. But overall, the trend is up because it goes from 35 to 80. So I don't know why it's until the end of the third quarter. I think overall the trend is up, followed by a gradual decline in the last quarter. Okay, I don't think it's necessary to divide it into that. Overall means looking from January to December. That is what overall means. It means looking at the whole chart. Here, the writer seems to be going into too much detail for an overview. They talk about the first and the last quarter, the middle two quarters. This is detail which should go in the body. So the stuff about declines and fluctuations, if you want to refer to those in terms of the overall trend, that's fine, but going into so much detail, that's not what the overview is all about. Okay, here's the body paragraph. Oh, they've divided this into 2 paragraphs now. We got this, and then we have here a second paragraph. Let me just move this here. So we have first body paragraph starting from January, and then the second one in July. Okay, so starting from January, the park gained a good momentum as it slowly rises from 30,000 to 40,000 visitors until March. It was then followed by a steady increase to almost doubling up to 80,000 people in May. From this point, the erratic fluctuation started where the park reached its lowest point in June. And here are my thoughts. It's good that they divided the chart into 2, but make it clear what we are looking at in the first paragraph, and make it clear what we're looking at in the second paragraph. So remember I said we should divide the chart into 2? Well, then clearly state that in this paragraph we're looking at the first half of the period. So I would suggest adding this here. Starting from January, the park gained a good momentum. Now, as I said before, it's very important to know what the data is describing. Is the data describing the park? No, it's not describing the park. It's describing the number of visitors to the park. The number of visitors to the park. The park didn't gain momentum. The number of visitors gained good momentum. So let's change this to number of visitors gained good momentum. Momentum should be an uncountable noun, so there's no as it slowly, again, the tense is so inconsistent. This is present tense, should be past tense. From 30,000 to 40,000 visitors. Remember, the preposition for months is in. So it rose from 30,000 visitors in January to 40,000 visitors in March, not until March. It was then followed by a steady increase to almost doubling. Now, I can understand what the writer is trying to say. They're saying here it was 40,000, here it was almost 80, so it almost doubled. But instead of using this phrase, which is difficult to understand, followed by a steady, oh, I should cross this out as well. Why is this not crossing out? There we go. By a steady twofold increase. Although it's not quite twofold. Now let's leave it as that. Okay, well, to be accurate, let's put in almost, since it isn't exactly a twofold increase. And maybe we should put a comma there. Put this here. Okay, so instead of saying doubling up, that's not the right phrase to use. We could say twofold increase. So a steady, almost twofold increase to 80,000 people in May. Although when I look at this, that isn't really what the data is describing, is it? So let's make it accurate. By a steady, nearly twofold increase to, why don't we say just under, because it isn't really 80,000, to just under 80,000 people in May. From this point, the erratic fluctuation started where the park reached its lowest point in June. Again, the data is not describing the park. This low point is not describing the park. It's describing the number of visitors. So, where the number of visitors, or let's just say number, because we know there's only one number. There's going to be no confusion. We don't need to repeat this. We can just say number. Okay, second paragraph. In July, the visitors were shooting up again to hit 120,000 mark, almost 4 times higher than the first month. The number decreased sharply to slightly under 80,000 in August, before rocketing to almost 140,000 in the next month. After it reached the peak, the park's visitor fell back steadily to 80,000 people by decreasing up to 20,000 visitors a month until December. Okay, so we can add this phrase to let the reader know that this paragraph has the second half of the chart as its topic. So just put this topic sentence in here saying moving on. Okay, so we looked at the first half, now we're moving on to the second half. The visitors were shooting up again. Okay, again, this is not describing the visitors, it's describing the number of visitors, not the visitors. The number. Okay, so this needs to change to was. The number was shooting up again. Actually, I'm not entirely sure why they are using the continuous. Why don't we just say the number? Let's change that completely. Okay, so the number shot up again to hit 120,000 mark. So here again, if you're going to use mark, which is a good word to use, just remember we need the article. Let me make that red. Almost 4 times higher than the first month. This looks good. I do like this because here there's a verb, and this verb has the numbers as the subject, and then here is the second verb which applies to the same subject, and the one happens after the other, so that's why we can use this ing there. Exactly same thing can be done here. So it should be after reaching, not reached. The park's visitors fell back steadily. Okay, so do I need to explain why this is wrong? Because it's the same as this. The data, I feel like I'm saying this the whole time. The data is not describing the visitors, it's describing the number of visitors. The people didn't fall back, nobody got hurt. The number of visitors fell back steadily. Alright, so I don't believe I need to say this again. I'm not even going to change this. So just know that it's not the visitors, it's the number. Fell back steadily to 80,000 people by decreasing by up to. Alright. So if you're going to use the phrase up to a certain number, and this is VING, then we need by here. So the writing looks better. What the writer did that was good is they divided the body into 2 paragraphs. What's not so good is they don't clearly state in the beginning what the topic of each paragraph is going to be. And another thing that's perhaps not so great is that the overview doesn't really seem like an overview because there's too much detail in it. The detail goes in the body, not in the overview. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.